you were in a commercial for Samsung.
Oh,
I wanted to bring
yeah,
this
yeah.
up because we briefly touched on it last week, and I wanted to bring it up with you because like that's dope. I want to hear more about it, like that process and stuff. That sounds so super, super dope.
Yeah, thank you. It was really cool, actually. So, for anyone listening, huge disclaimer: anytime I work with a brand, I only do one-off with the brand. So I never sign like I won't say never, but like I'll tell you if I ever sign a long-term agreement with a brand, and I don't sign long-term agreements with brands that I review because obviously that would be like unethical.
That's offering a bias for like everything that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't do that. All the contracts have signed are like one-off. Like, so this one, for anyone that doesn't know, and we'll leave a link in the show notes, but it was a really cool opportunity where Samsung reached out to me, this PR branch, and they were like, we're putting together a commercial where we basically get reviewers' takes on a brand new product, the Tab S6 Lite, which is student-oriented, so it kind of makes sense, like, being from that perspective of both, like, tech and student. It kind of seemed like a good fit. But interestingly enough, everyone else in the commercial had already made a full review. And then Samsung just licensed the footage from them after the fact, which they've done with me as well. So it's basically like you give a full review. You have no idea Samsung's going to want to work with you. And then they're like, oh, we really like what you said around 5 seconds. Can we buy that to use? And what's really interesting about that, and what I really like about Samsung, is that they'll always say at the end of the video, like, to check out the full review, and then they put the link to make sure that, like, they're not just taking the good parts without showing the bad. But I hadn't made a review yet, so they were like, we want to work with you on this, and I was like, all right, like, I'm amped, but here's the deal. I never do paid reviews, and it can't be pitched as a paid review. And we kind of went back and forth on that, and they were, like, really okay with it, but it was just, like, took, like, how are we going to phrase this, and how are we going to make it clear? So I think that they did a really good job. They just said that they commissioned me for the shots, which was true. And then they gave me, like, creative control about what I said. So for anyone that doesn't know, the process of creating a commercial with a brand is different every time, but for this particular one, it started out with an email of interest. I responded back with the rate for the production, and the licensing agreement, so they were licensing it for a certain amount of time, which basically means they're allowed to use that footage. So I always keep ownership of the footage, but then license it for a brand to use it. And for any YouTuber that's listening to this, you should always charge a licensing rate. They should not just get that for free unless it's built into your rate. So they agreed to that. We got into the contract form. I bring up the review thing. They're like, okay with it. And then they send me like a portfolio, which basically is like, here's what the main objectives of the video are. Here are the main shots we want you to get. And here are the highlights of the product. And then creative control from there. So I basically just shot a bunch of different takes to camera saying things like, the display is stunning, and only things that I genuinely believed. And then I sent them, I color graded all that footage. I took a ton of B-roll shots, like overhead, doing certain things, because the benefit of working with me, since I hadn't made a review yet, was they could ask me to get shots that the other reviewers didn't get. Because, like, if you made a review of the Tab S6 and you didn't have a shot of the S Pen, they couldn't ask you to add that in after because the review's already up. But since I hadn't made a video yet, they were able to, like, ask me to get certain shots that they needed to, like, fill in the gaps. So I took a bunch of B-roll shots, and then I didn't even edit it. They color graded it, and then I just sent them all the raw clips, and then they put it all together, and whoever edited it did a fantastic job. It was so well done. It was incredible. So they did an amazing job in that. It was such an exciting project to be part of, because obviously, like, as a filmmaker and a YouTuber, like, it's extremely humbling and flattering to have, like, a brand of that size want to work with you, and want you to, like, film something for a national or international ad. So it was pretty cool. But obviously, when I get the Tab S7, there will be a fully unbiased review. So I'm amped about it, though. It was a really cool project.